Good afternoon. Welcome to the 2023 Impact of Scouting Seminar. It's my great pleasure this afternoon to introduce our MC. She comes from Argentina. Many of you will know her. She was instrumental in the creation and development of community involvement centers in Argentina, and many of you heard about this at the 2022 Impact Seminar. She is the youngest ever International Commissioner of Scouts de Argentina. She is a youth representative for World Scouting. The list continues. She is a Pinkie from KISC, so that is a Kandersteg International Scout Center staff member, and her role is the project assistant for the centenary of KISC. Please welcome to the stage Maria Florencia Cagliero, who we know as Flor.
Hello. It is such a great pleasure to spend this afternoon with all of you. Today, we're going to talk about one of my biggest passions ever, scouting. Today, I am not alone here. Today, we have brought some speakers. We have brought not one, not two, not three, but 4 incredible scout stories and projects of scouts that are doing things on the ground right now. Today we're going to discover, some of you even might be reminded of, the long-lasting impact that scouts are having all around the world. Beyond that, after getting to know these stories, we will have a panel discussion where you will also be able to ask your questions. After that, we will talk around the topic of annual giving and to see how your contribution can further reach what scouts are doing all around the world. To officially begin, we are honored with the presence of the chair of the World Scout Foundation. We would like to hear from you how scouts are contributing worldwide, thanks to your support. I am honored to welcome to the stage Your Royal Highness, Prince Guillaume of Luxembourg.
Your Majesty, Your Highness, Herr Ehrenpräsident Ogi, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by thanking the municipality for hosting us here in this Gemeindesaal. Above all places, scouting is deeply rooted here in Kandersteg. And this is a very particular year for scouting in Kandersteg, but more about that tonight. Our session this afternoon will be very inspiring, especially to us as scouts. I feel extremely proud every time I hear the stunning testimonies of young scouts from around the world who have seen their lives change thanks to scouting and about the goods they have managed to give back to their communities. For all of you who might not be so familiar to scouting, I think there's very few. You will discover a movement with strong fundamentals, with dedicated young men and women who have a strong sense of service to their local communities in everyday life as well as in times of crisis. Scouting has developed and matured tremendously over the last decades, ready to face the new global challenges. Not only does Scouting empower young people with the skills they will need for life, with a set of values that support their personal development and enables them to be resilient in a rapidly changing world, but more so, it enables the movement to lead positive change in society as a whole. We are volunteers, giving our time and efforts for causes that are bigger than us. Together, the World Scout Foundation, with the World Organization of the Scouts movement, we try as best as we can to enable this positive dynamic driven by a shared purpose and a shared sense of urgency. It was therefore not a coincidence that WOSM, together with the support of the Foundation, enabled many new partnerships and organized great side events at the SDG Summit in New York 2 weeks ago. At this event, the Secretary General of the United Nations stated, "The SDGs' promise to leave no one behind is losing steam due to the manifold crises our world has to face. Instead of leaving no one behind, we risk leaving the SDGs behind." Many are not aware that Scouting is the greatest advocate and field worker for the implementation of SDGs worldwide. It stands for the leading educational youth movement, empowering 57 million young people, adult leaders, and volunteers to be active global citizens and agents of change. They are taking responsibilities in times of crisis, in times of needs, even in war zones, such as we see today in Ukraine. Scout help the youth all over the world to gain critical leadership and life skills, transforming their lives and the ones of the communities positively. Supporting Scouting enables us to keep our compass in the right direction, bringing our crucial and ambitious goals further. Be it our World Scouting programs and the projects helping the vulnerable and empowering youth and strengthening our National Scouts organization with all the support we are getting from all over the world. Without that support, none of this could be possible. But there is still so much to be done. Fostering new Scouts communities, bringing Scouting to new countries and areas, enabling more children and teenagers to take on the path of our core Scouting values, supporting them in their projects and the positive impact they will have on the ground. We need to expand our donor base via all our networks. We need to grow the BP Fellowship, and especially the Regal and Baden-Powell circles. We need all of your skills to introduce more people to a shared passion for Scouting. Your Majesty, ladies and gentlemen, Scouting is a school for life. We all care about others, and we all care about our planet. And we are all ready to take action and give our precious time to Scouting. Let's offer those opportunities to millions of new young Scouts, including the most vulnerable. They deserve the same opportunity to access quality education, leadership development, and learn skills for life in a fun and playful environment. I am convinced that the world needs more Scouts, and that the world would be a much better place with more Scouts. But this can only be done with more support. Thank you for your presence here today, for the continuous support so many of you have shown over the years, and before giving the floor to the real stars of today, our young Scouts on the ground, it's my great pleasure to hand over to our host of today's venue, Madame Barbara Jost, the Mayor of Kandersteg. Thank you very much.
Your Majesty, Your Royal Highness, Your Highness, Your local Kandersteg Highness, Adolf Ogi, dear guests, dear friends, dear Scouts. The importance of the Scouts for Kandersteg begins with the construction of the Lötschberg Tunnel, which is the tunnel at the end of the campground that leads into the canton of Wallis. In 1906, construction work began and what is now the campsite. Various buildings were built there, workshops, depots, offices, a hospital, a schoolhouse, and residential buildings. The small village of Kandersteg had 450 inhabitants at that time. With all the workers and their families, the number grew to 3,500. 97% of the workers were Italian. And so people of Kandersteg learned to cook pasta. But they also learned to deal with a foreign culture. It was a happy coincidence that Walter von Bonstetten was able to convince Lord Baden-Powell that the old building office and the surrounding grounds were just the right place for an international center. Ever since then, the Scouts have been part of the village in Kandersteg. The influence of the tunnel workers, the impact of tourism, the international guests, and especially the Scouts forces Kandersteg to deal with other cultures. Kandersteg is therefore an extremely open-minded village. And believe me, this is very rare in the Swiss mountains. To show how open-minded Kandersteg is, therefore an to show how open-minded Kandersteg is, I list our 3 churches. In Kandersteg, there is a Reformed church, a Catholic church, and a Buddhist monastery. Another example is me. I was elected as a local councillor 20 years ago. Although I did not grow up in this village, and although I did not belong to any party. That would not be possible in another mountain village. I believe that this is the magic of Kandersteg, the open-minded spirit. I hope that you can feel it a little during these days. Now I would like to give the closing word to Mark Twain. He also visited Kandersteg and wrote down, "The spirit of the place spreads a feeling of deep, fulfilling peace. You could leave your life behind and not miss it when it is over." Thank you.
Thank you, Your Royal Highness, for your thought-provoking words. And also thank you for your leadership. You've highlighted how Scouts are creating long-lasting impact worldwide. But here, we are today to demonstrate that in front of all of you today. Thank you also, Barbara, Mayor of Kandersteg, and also ex-Pinkie. We really feel at home here at Kandersteg. And if you can see this incredible building called the Gemeindesaal, you can see how we've done the setup. Very, very amazing. It gives me the confidence to be here in front of you. Kandersteg has been giving support to the World Scout Center for a century now. How incredible is that? I think now we're ready to begin our journey of stories. I can see our speakers there ready to come on stage and share them with all of you. But I would like to remind you that as you hear to these stories, please remember that this is thanks to a great deal of young Scouts volunteers, but also thanks to your continuous support. As Scouts, we say, we think global, but we act local. Why don't we start off by hearing the impact that Kandersteg has had on our volunteers? Firstly, through a short video of what is KISC, but then all the way from Uganda, we have a real-life experience of someone who started his international journey at KISC and is really, really keen to share his story with all of you.
For Scouts from all corners of the globe, Kandersteg International Scout Center is more than just a destination. It's a journey of a lifetime. The friendships formed at KISC are like no other, deep, meaningful, and built on a foundation of trust and shared experiences. As Scouts embark on their adventures, they learn valuable life skills that will serve them well beyond these mountains. But KISC is more than just a physical place. It's a commitment to the principles of scouting, loyalty, kindness, and service. As the sun sets over these peaks, Scouts reflect on their day's achievements, knowing they've made a difference, not only in their own lives, but in the lives of those around them. KISC experience isn't confined to these valleys. It's a spark that ignites a lifelong passion for exploration, adventure, and making a positive impact on the world. The bonds formed at Kandersteg are unbreakable, transcending borders and languages, and uniting Scouts in a global community of like-minded individuals. And as Scouts depart, they carry with them the lessons learned, the friendships made, and a renewed sense of purpose and commitment to making the world a better place. Kandersteg International Scout Center is not just a place on the map. It's a beacon of hope, a reminder that together, Scouts can achieve greatness. So, let us take the experiences and friendships from KISC and carry them forward into our lives, knowing that the spirit of Scouting will guide us wherever we go. Join us in this incredible journey of self-discovery, adventure, and friendship as we continue to uphold the values that make Scouting a force for good in the world. Kandersteg International Scout Center, a place where dreams come true and friendships last a lifetime.
I greet you all in the name of Scouting. My names are Gidds Bambaga, and my Scouting journey began when I was 6 years old. Scouting gave me the opportunity to step out and get involved in outdoor activities and games, but also I made lots of friends. Born and raised in a remote village in eastern Uganda, I was involved at a very young age in heavy-hard activities like goat keeping, coffee harvesting at my family plantation, and also carrying heavy water containers in search for safe, clean water. I got my first international experience at Kandersteg International Scout Center. I applied as a Pinkie, and I got financial support and also the opportunity to volunteer. One tricky challenge was the Swiss weather, but I found a solution when I put on several Scout pink uniforms and sweaters on me. When my international experience ended at KISC, I got my backpack on, full of skills, and went back straight to my coffee plantation and general duties. I grow coffee, and not only does it support my family, but also it's a gateway to communities through education, food, and shelter. I'm here to share with you 2 of our Scout projects that we are doing. One of these projects is Scouts for Safe Water. In this project, I and the Scouts have involved the young Scouts, the Scout leaders, and the community leaders to engage and sensitize families, Scout groups, schools, and communities about clean and safe water. To date, I'm happy to say 23,000 people from 15 villages and slums across Uganda have access to clean and safe water with the water filters and boreholes that we have donated. This includes one primary school. Talking about primary schools, education is a human right. It is a gateway where people can access information, where there can be less inequalities, but also sustainable development. Up to date, children in less privileged communities like mine still walk over 6 kilometers to and from school. And this has caused them to miss school, sometimes get kidnapped or raped. I and the Scouts are not keeping silent on this. And we are beginning the first Scout Learning School in eastern Uganda. And in this school, we hope that the young people will be able to get more scouting activities and programs, but also end up responsible citizens. I and the local Scouts, with the international connections that I made while at Kandersteg, are now making bricks and also doing skilled, non-skilled work alongside the professional builders to build this school. Now we are one simple example of how impactful Scouts can be in their communities. Imagine the collective impact that we can make in the world. Thank you for being change movers and champions of hope.
What a touching story. Indeed, just like Gidds said, you are big, big champions of this. And just like Gidds, we're over 57 million creating a better world, and you are a part of that. Something that stuck in my mind, probably in yours as well, that Gidds said, is that the education it's a human right that can bring people out of poverty. How important. If you have any other questions to Gidds, you can ask him. He will also be joining activities throughout the weekend. Just a secret between us, he's very passionate about his coffee plantation. So if you're a coffee lover, ask him about that. Now, I want to ask you some questions as well. Maybe, can you raise your hand if this is the first time you've been at Kandersteg? Oh, quite a lot. Amazing. Huge welcome to you. But then also maybe we have some locals. Do we have anyone from Switzerland here? Oh, very good. Thank you so much for welcoming us into your country. Let's fully further focus now onto life skills that scouting brings. For this, we have brought a scout leader from Zurich called Lisa. She will tell us a little bit more about Swiss scouting. And just before that, we will see a quick video with outdoor footage from the Swiss National Jamboree, which is the event that Swiss Scouting does, around every 12 years or so.
remember the first time you had the opportunity to lead? I was 13 years old. You may think that sounds a little bit young. Thanks to Scouting, I was prepared. Let me take you onto my journey of Scouting and how it has impacted my life. I started Scouting when I was 6 years old. I was a little shy girl. Yes, it was scary for my parents. I was prepared. I was prepared and kept continuing. And Scouting is more than going to the forest and build a fire. It is about being passionate, having lifelong friendships, and leading leadership skills in a very young age. Packed with all those experiences, I started my first year of leading. It was a year of experience, of making mistakes and learning from them. Nowadays, I'm leading alongside with my former Cub Scouts. On one hand, this makes me feel pretty old. But on the other side, I'm super proud to see their development and growth. And as they now create the new generations of leaders, I moved on and became part of the partnership we had with Serbia. It was a rough start. It was during the pandemic, and everything we did was held online. Until last year, when they finally came to our national camp. Meeting them showed me that in other countries, the pace is different. We in Switzerland tend to be very precise. And sometimes it's just good to go with the flow. And this flow brought me into my current role as a co-lead of the International Commission of the Swiss Scouts. It has widened my horizon about global scouting. And with the things I've learned as a scout and as a leader, I'm now bringing the team spirit into my group and enable everyone to do our goal, to bring international scouting to the 51,000 members we have in Switzerland. Inspired by all those insights, I decided to do the Woodbridge course. We created a toolbox with activities for the mental health of our leaders, to enhance the leadership skills of scouting by raising awareness of a taboo topic. Talking about all those things shows that scouting is not just fun and games. Everyone who has been involved in scouting is a valuable member of our society. In Switzerland, in our national camp last year, we have undertaken a study that proved that scouting is a school for life. However, our population rarely knows about this. And that's why the Swiss Scout movement has launched a campaign about skills for life. I'm just one example out of many that shows where scouting has brought me from this little 6-year-old girl to now staying in front of you and being with you. Thank you.
That was incredible, Lisa. I think you can see right through her how scouting gives you, she said it herself, leadership skills, responsibility, and how to become an active citizen. Lisa is standing here in front of you all with her confidence. What a great story you have, Lisa. Thank you for sharing. Also, if you're interested to getting to know a little bit more about Swiss Scouting, we have some Swiss Scouts with us joining throughout the weekend. And I've been around Switzerland a little bit, and I've seen on the streets, on the train stations, all these posters about this campaign that they're doing. What a campaign, eh? They're everywhere. Now, I think we're ready to take our stories. We've been in Kandersteg, we've been in Switzerland, we're ready to take them worldwide. For this, I'm going to introduce Yossr, a scout leader from Tunisia that joined in challenging times scouting. But I'm really, really keen to hear what brought her to the movement and what she's gained from it. Yossr, the stage is absolutely yours.
Scouting is only for small kids. Well, at least that's what I thought until the year of 2020. That's when COVID came around and changed the word once and for all. Well, it actually changed my life as well, because that's when I discovered about scouting. And it makes total sense, because since the beginning of the movement, youth always stand out in the time of crisis. It offered me the opportunity to be a part of a positive change, and I took it. Scouting really leaves a wonderful impact in youth. And I'm not saying this because it's a beautiful word and you like to hear it. I'm saying this because these are facts, and I have seen scouting actually changing lives. I knew people going down through the wrong path in their lives, standing in the wrong side of the law. At some point, they encountered scouting, and today, they are scouting volunteers. If you see the before and after, believe me, you wouldn't recognize them. Well, after one year of joining, I have experienced different things in scouting. I have seen children dropping from school, and the only reason is they couldn't provide school supplies. Knowing that education is free in Tunisia, that sounded weird at first, but we succeeded to provide school supplies not once, not twice, but multiple times. I have also witnessed people shaking in the cold of the winter. Today, I can gladly say that we provide around 500 care packs each and every year along with my group. It's incredible, right? Man might wonder, how could we do all of this? Well, I will illustrate it for you. So, please join me as we count my steps. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And this is how big our office is. This is where we hold most of our meetings, and we store whatever can fit in there, knowing that we are a group of 275 members, which means basically the number of people in this room. Isn't it incredible? It's a total proof that Scouts make the most out of the least. Can you even imagine what can we do if we had the proper resources? It will be magnificent, I can tell. Well, after 1 year of joining, I have been recognized as Messengers of Peace Hero along with my group. And I had my very first international experience. And it was even more mind-blowing for me. Because, well, I know Scouting is a global organization, but having the chance to actually see it and meet heroes from every corner in this world doing a great work made me really mind-blown and inspired. Came back home and said, Scouting offers me a platform to amplify youth voices, and I'm going to use it. Apply to be a youth representative, which I am today. Youth representative means I get to amplify youth voices from all around the world and make them a part of the decision-making process. Sounds really awesome. Well, none of this could ever be possible without everyone in this room. For my end words, I have a Tunisian proverb that I want to share with you. It says, one hand don't clap. No one can clap with one hand, right? Word Scouting can never do the work and leave the impact that we are actually leaving right now in the world without everyone in this room. So my word to you is to please keep being the other hand to the word Scouting so we can all clap together. Thank you.
thank you, Yossr, for your story. Just like Gidds, just like Lisa, and now Yossr has shared his story, we're over 57 million creating a better world, and you are a big part of that. Yossr, isn't it incredible how she's been, only after 3 years, she's already amplifying the voices of those 57 million scouts as a youth representative, advocating for peace. That's just incredible. The World Scout Foundation is keen to ensure that we increase the funding for World Scouting. And we hope that you know how much we value your support. I've just asked you a few questions, and I'll go back again. Maybe now we don't raise our hands, but we do 2 claps. So maybe can I hear from the room who has joined the World Scout Foundation as a Baden-Powell Fellow in the last maybe 5 years? Incredible, me too. Maybe someone has joined in the last 10 years? Very good. And maybe do we have someone in the room who has joined in the last 40 years? Wow, wow. Thank you so much for your long-lasting support to this. Now, Scouting thrives in all social contexts of the world. And imagine if we can bring even more than the 57 million that we are. Well, we can do that. Scouting thrives especially in those places with the most vulnerable young children and young people. Now, for our last story that we have for you today, we have Edward, who has embraced a World Scouting initiative that brings scouting opportunities to the most extreme, difficult circumstances. This initiative is called Ticket to Life, and including the generous support of Swiss Baden-Powell Fellows, Doris and Hans Imholz, is ready to expand and scale up. Bringing Edward wasn't easy, let me tell you, but scouts are persistent. First, we will watch a video on a quick glimpse of what it Tickets to Life, and then Edward will share his story.
Imagine you are found in a refugee camp where there is no food, water, shelter. Right in the camp, you have kids who are quite struggling to access quality education. You are worried and scared about the future of your children. We can imagine this together as we're seated here. This is what 50,000 plus people living in Dzaleka refugee camp in Malawi are experiencing today. My name is Edward Nyamwera. I'm from Malawi. And I can tell you that Malawi is not a well-to-do country. There are so many people in Malawi who are in great need of support. But even in these circumstances, as scouts, we are able to identify and get committed to help those who are living in vulnerable conditions, like people in Dzaleka refugee camp. It has been our greatest passion to bring scouting in Dzaleka refugee camp. And thanks to Ticket to Life project, that has helped us to make our dream reality. You may ask, what's Ticket to Life project? So, Ticket to Life project simply brings an opportunity of scouting that it can offer to all young people in vulnerable conditions. As Malawi Scouts, it has been our project to take it to the most vulnerable kids and young people in Dzaleka refugee camp. I'll share with you 3 important projects that we are doing in Dzaleka refugee camp. These projects, these activities, they are not only building the skills of these young people there, but also bringing an impact to the larger volume of the refugee community. 50% of the people that are living in Dzaleka refugee camp, they're young people who are greatly struggling to access their education. They will wake up early in the morning, do the house chores, and from there they'll walk 4 to 5 kilometers to hunt water. They go back to school tired, and when they're back, they're sent to go and fetch firewood and work in their garden sometimes. And the only time where they can study and work on their homework is during the evening. But here's the story. There's no light in their homes. They're nearly school, there's no light. As scouts, we reach out to friends and families to bring solar in their local schools. This has helped a lot that they, in the evening, in their groups, they go back in the evening, study and work on their homeworks. The other project we've also done in Dzaleka refugee camp through Ticket to Life is about food for life. Food for life, we have brought these young people together and impact them with agricultural activities, in the sense that they are able to produce food for themselves, and excess food we are able to sell out in the way that we're able to support our scouting activities. The other foods, we take it to the elderly people as well as those people living with disabilities right in the camp. The last project that I've also been doing with the people living in Dzaleka through Ticket to Life has been empowering the women and young girls right in the camps. These groups of people, they have been discriminated against. They have faced a lot of gender-based violences, and as well they've been left behind for too long. We brought them all together, 35 of them, and offer them the business skills, entrepreneurial skills. Why? So that they are able to run small businesses right in those challenging times where they're living. Not only that, we have also offered them practical skills where they're able to produce sanitary pads, so they do not go to the shops, buy where they're too quite expensive. They save the little that they have. For them to give back to scouting, these women, they have been taking our scouting movement wider in the refugee camp, where we've seen them opening small troops of scouting, and I'm happy to tell you that we have 500 young kids, young people right in the camps through their initiative. This has been them giving back to the scouting that we have done. In conclusion, all the activities and action that we're doing in Dzaleka refugee camp is through your support. You are behind this impact. And we really thank you all. Thank you.
Wow. Can someone please tell me how can I come back to stage after that? I literally have goosebumps all over my body. Just like Gidds, just like Lisa, just like Yossr, just like Edward, we're 57 million creating a better world. You are the part of that. But I think we can bring even more. As Scouts, since 2013, we've been counting our community service hours. This is Scouts doing on-the-ground projects. And I'm very happy to share this milestone, that we've nearly reached 3 billion hours. Yeah, I said billion, not million. So I think we can give a huge round of applause for this milestone. This is just an indicator of our social impact. And it's also the largest youth contribution to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. We've heard the 4 stories. We've talked about impact. But if I have to think one word that comes to my mind when I think about the impact Scouting has had on my life, it would be community, perhaps. What would your one word be? Maybe if you feel comfortable, you want to share it with a person that you have sitting next to you. Mine is community. Thank you for sharing. We've heard the 4 stories. Thank you for sharing. We've heard the 4 stories, but I think we're ready to go beyond that. We welcome to the stage for a panel discussion Dr. Nina Ferencic from UNICEF, Chairperson of the World Scout Committee, Andy Chapman, to a panel discussion moderated by our own Baden-Powell Fellow, Tania Roach, who is also Director of Marketing and Fundraising at WWF Germany.
Hello, everybody. I'm delighted to be here. Kandersteg is one of my favorite places ever. I have a long history here. In fact, this particular Gemeindesaal is where I met my husband for the first time in 1992, so a long time ago, at the World Scout Youth Forum that also took place here. So my name is Tania Roach. I'm a BP Fellow since 2014. I still have the scarf, so those of you that were there as well in Kandersteg. And as I said, I've been connected to Kandersteg through the staff and also on the committee. But today I'm here in a different capacity because I have 2 very honored guests who want to share with us some thoughts and some comments about the impact of Scouting. So Nina Ferencic and Andy Chapman. And welcome to you both. I'd like to start with you, Nina. You are a senior advisor for the Young People's Health, Development and Participation at UNICEF, and you're based in Geneva. You're absolutely passionate about youth empowerment and youth engagement, particularly in the issues that are important to youth. We've invited you here to talk particularly about one project where UNICEF has worked together with Scouts, and that is called the UACT project, or Ukraine Action Projects. And this is where Scouts have been involved in supporting on a humanitarian level in response to the Ukraine war and in helping to support the Ukrainian refugees. I would like to find out a bit more from your perspective, your fresh external perspective. Why did you choose to partner with Scouts? What makes Scouts different or special from your perspective?
Well, thank you for the question. Just imagine we wake up 24 February 2022, and the world is shocked by an attack on a European country. And overnight we have thousands, hundreds of thousands of women and children crossing border from Ukraine. Europe got mobilized in no time, and really there were people flocking to the borders to help, to give a hand to these refugees that were leaving their homes, traumatized, arriving in Europe, etc. And if I can be honest here, one of our bosses was, and UNICEF, of course, we are a humanitarian organization, so we had to get there, act fast, do, deliver, make sure that we have rapid response. So, and the truth is that one of our bosses went to Poland and got to the train station. He came on a Saturday morning and came to the train station. It was just a couple of days after. And who he found there was the Scouts. And they were handing out, welcoming people coming, giving them information where to go. They were really there in action. And not only was it the Scouts in action, but it was young people in action. So he came back to the office and he said, all right, Nina, just I challenge you. Come on, I want to work with these guys. So that was the truth of it. So we quickly worked with Abir and her excellent team here. We had to deal with all the bureaucracy of having, and we went back and dug out. We have a memorandum of understanding with Scouts that was very old, but it was very useful to give us the basis to sign the agreement. So we actually got going very quickly with Scouts. And so in the process, first, I'd like to say what was amazing to me. I'd like to share two stories here. One is, what was amazing to me is the rapidity with which that, and the passionate reaction that the Scouts had to be there, to take action, as I said. And but what was interesting also is that after the first initial response faded, the Scouts were still there. To this day, they are still there at the borders. So that's quite unique because there was a longer term engagement. And one of my favorite stories is that I asked, I was talking to Scouts in one of the countries because UACT became a project across 9 countries. So, and there were a lot of NGOs at the border. Everybody was there. People also in individual initiatives. But you know what the Scouts had nobody else had? They were there at night. Because you guys know how to set camps. And you were the only NGO that was able to be there for those refugees arriving at night. And I thought that was such a, and the young people got organized among themselves, etc. Of course, we as a big organization, we then connected the Scouts to the local governments, to different initiatives that are happening in the humanitarian sector. We made sure that you're connected to that, and that was where we built a fantastic partnership. And through that partnership, in a very short time, we managed to reach more than 1,100,000 Ukrainians, but not like it was real people. There were 35,000 Scouts volunteers who were mobilized and who contributed their time, their energy, their passion to support the arriving refugees. There were about 9,000 Ukrainians who joined the Scouts in these different receiving countries. So it has been a fantastic project, and I think that the stories that we heard from the field are telling us how important this was, both for the incoming people who were often traumatized and really lost everything, but also for the host communities. So it's very important.
Can you say a bit more about the stories from the field? Because when we talked, you mentioned something called the Scout Diaries. I would like to know a bit more about that.
Yes, actually, the Scout Diary is a lovely, lovely. So it's really the Scouts themselves telling their stories, and I would like to make sure that everybody has access and is able to read them subsequently. But the Scout stories are really stories about engagement, and they're stories that tell you how important it was for them to feel that they're contributing something practical and concrete. So, for example, one of the things that happened as a result of this massive influx of refugees. Don't forget, this was massive, rapid onset of a huge number of refugees crossing borders. It's very difficult to organize a response under that. Within a year, we had more refugees in Europe than over 10 years of the Syrian war. So that is really, it was really an amazing rapid onset of a crisis. So one of the things that UNICEF set up is blue dots. Blue dots were safe spaces at the borders where a refugee can get access to immediate, information and some guidance to make sure that, for example, the children who are coming unaccompanied are able to be registered, are able to be given some real safety and protection. So the blue dots, the biggest partner we have, the people in the blue dots, the staff of the blue dots were Scouts. And that gave the blue dots a level of humanity and legitimacy and caring that was quite extraordinary.
You say it's a good example of showcasing the power of young people. I'm very interested in your external view about where do we go forward? How can we harness the power, particularly of the Scouts in the future? How can we use this experience to make more of it? What would your advice be to us?
To be frank, the Scouts were kind of on my radars before this Ukrainian war, but not as much as they are now. And we've had an amazing experience in terms of being able to deliver results for people, very concrete, very specific, for large numbers. But the most important thing is that sense of mobilizing young people and the young people getting mobilized for a cause. There's the stories that we hear are really important, but one of the things I'm thinking, there's clearly a role, and I think some of the young speakers now just said that, there's a clear role to showcase how youth mobilization and youth engagement can lead to concrete action. I wish governments would recognize a lot more the power of youth in formal ways. So that's one area where we can definitely work together between UNICEF and the Scouts. I think that another area, I would just look at all of your slides. All of your slides are outdoor slides. So for me, the Scouts are you have such a legitimacy when it comes to one of the top concerns of young people today, and that is climate action. If I were in your advisory, whatever, I would say, guys, you're the actor for the greening of the planet in an amazing way because you care about nature, not from today, but from decades ago. And you are such amazing potential spokespeople. Get campaigning, get organized, get the skills, the green skills, for the green jobs, for the transition into these green economies, etc. Young people are passionate about climate, and Scouts are connecting young people. You have such a legitimacy in this area, so just go for it.
Thank you, Nina. And just picking up on your comment about outdoors, we have promised Nina an outdoors experience tonight. She's going to take part in the campfire. Thank you, Nina. So now I'd like to move to Andy. You need to hand on the microphone. Thank you. Andy, you're the chairperson of the World Scout Committee. I'm sure everybody knows you, but I'm just making sure that that's clear. You were elected in 2017 onto the committee, and in 2021 you became the chairperson. Professionally, you come from an accounting background, and you work as a senior manager at Accenture. But you started as a Cub Scout, and I believe you've had a big Scout history with Eagle Scout and a number of different volunteer roles. But I'm more interested, what do you think Scouting brought you in your professional life?
That's a difficult question because it's brought so much for me in my professional life. I think the most important thing it brought to me was to learn adaptability. We do so much planning in Scouting for campouts, for moots, for jamborees. And what we learn is no matter how much we plan, when we arrive on the ground, it's not always exactly what we planned for.
Sounds like the UN.
Even in Cub Scouting. But what we learn and we teach scouts, indirectly through the non-formal education process is the adaptability to adapt to the situation, no matter what challenge is thrown at you. It could be when I was a Cub Scout camping, wake up in the middle of the night and the whole campsite was flooded, or perhaps a bear paid us a visit and stole our food in the middle of the night. Or perhaps a typhoon's on the way, and
Doesn't happen that often.
No, not too often. But what's so incredible is the adaptability of scouts, and not only into my professional life, whether it's a new team I'm working on, a new customer, a new client, a new project, but in real-world scenarios like the ones we're referencing here, whether it's a natural disaster, whether it's a conflict. Scouts are the first to adapt to the situation on the ground, and they set the example for the rest of the community and how to adapt to those situations. How do we adapt to these new refugees that are entering our community, and how do we welcome and integrate them into society? In Lebanon, when there was the giant explosion, the scouts adapted immediately to get on the front lines. How do we help these people who need medical services that are in critical need? And it's really the most important and flexible skill in my mind that we teach for the future, because none of us knows what the future has in store for us. But if we can teach young people to adapt to no matter what challenge they face, the world's going to be in a better situation because of scouting.
Thank you. Let me take the discussion on towards WOSM and the strategy for the future. How do you see that we're going to reach more young people to become scouts? Or how are we going to get more scouts to get beyond the 57 million that we've been talking a lot about today?
Yeah, so as many of you know, we have Vision 2023, which is now coming to a sunset, the strategy for scouting that was established over 10 years ago, but extended because of the pandemic. So one of the main responsibilities we have on the World Scout Committee right now is to do consultations with national scout organizations, with young people, through partners and stakeholders, so that we can organize for the World Scout Conference a path forward of what does the next 9 years look like for scouting, and where do we want to take this all together as a global movement. So I just want to share with you some of the emerging trends that we have coming out of our consultation so far. So far we have 3 impact statements that we're finding are so important to young people around the world, and that is a peaceful and inclusive world that they want to see, a world shaped by youth, and a sustainable world. And if you think about those 3 impact statements, I can intertwine it to all 4 of our incredible speakers' presentations earlier. So it's really confirmation for me that I think we're on the right track for what's really important for young people. Now, under that, we have some strategic priorities that we think are going to be a hot topic for the conference and where we want to go in the next 9 to 10 years. And one thing we're doing different that we didn't do in the last strategy is we're separating strategic priorities for the Scout movement separate from strategic priorities for the Scout organization. So for the Scout movement, we have 4 strategic priorities that we've identified so far. Those are innovating education. We can't expect to do the same scouting program that we did 50 years ago and expect that today's young people are going to find it attractive. We have to make a scouting program that's exciting, and it's what the young people today want to get out of it. The second priority we see emerging is safeguarding and well-being. We need to give families assurances that scouting is a safe space for them to contribute as individuals, but united by a common set of values, being the Scout Promise and the Scout Law. The third is diversity and inclusion. We need to make scouting available to all young people. They may not join, but they have the right to be able to join scouting if they so choose. And that means getting out of just the metropolises, getting into rural areas in our countries, getting into the underserved populations in our communities to ensure as many young people as possible have that opportunity to experience the life-transforming program that Scouting is. And then the fourth priority for the Scouts movement is volunteering. As most of you in here, if not all, are Scouting volunteers, and without everything you do, the program for the young people would not exist. So we need to transform how we train, how we recruit, and how we maintain Scouting volunteers to support these young people, because it's a critical component to the entire equation of what makes Scouting successful. And then there's the strategic priorities for the Scouting organization. The first is a fit-for-purpose organization, focused on good governance, financial sustainability. So we set ourselves up for future success for the financial support of young people in the future. The second is an adaptable organization. We need to be able to measure the impact that we're doing. We just heard great stories of impact of Scouts and the incredible work that they're doing, but how do we measure that impact, and how do we explain that to the rest of the world? And also, we have to start to digitally transform what we're doing in Scouting. I mean, you'll be hard-pressed to find a Scout that doesn't have one of these in their hands. So how do we innovate Scouting and digitally transform it for young people? And lastly, and maybe most importantly, is an influential organization. Or how do we communicate? We're great at communicating to our own Scouts, but they're already enjoying the program. So how do we communicate to the people who aren't in Scouting? How do we communicate to our partners like UNICEF, the incredible impact that Scouting has on the world? And how do we advocate Scouting? Just like Prince Guillaume was referencing in New York at the SDG Summit, we really have to amplify those efforts and tell our story to the rest of the world. We have such incredible stories of what young people are doing everywhere, but we have to strengthen how we tell that story so that everyone knows all the incredible work that we're doing. So far, that's what's starting to surface of the way the next strategy for Scouting is shaping up. Of course, this will have to be discussed at the upcoming World Scout Conference next summer, but it's really exciting to see, based on the feedback we're getting from all of our stakeholders and our young people, where they want to take Scouting.
Thank you very much, Andy. I think you've actually answered my second question in the first question. So it was going to be about priorities and opportunities, but I think you've given us a very good rundown of the strategy. Thank you very much. I'd now like to take the opportunity to invite our 4 young speakers to come back onto the stage, and we're now going to actually open out the floor and have some questions and answers from you, so it's going to be a bit more interactive. So let's get everybody back on the stage. You have to bring your own chair. You're a Scout. So welcome back, Gidds, Lisa, Yossr, and Edward. As I said, a chance for a bit of interaction now. I'm sure you have lots of questions you might want to ask from our illustrious panel here. Just want to remind you what a question is. A question is a sentence with a question mark at the end of it. We only have 20 minutes, so I'm sure you appreciate if the questions are short, so that we give more time for the answers. And when you ask your question, please state your name and who you want to ask the question to. So it would be very nice if you could identify one person, because we won't have one question for everybody. But to get us kicked, while you're thinking, to get us kicked off, I'd actually like to take the opportunity to ask Nina and Andy, maybe you two, having sat through the presentations of the 4 young speakers, maybe you have a question for one of the 4. Nina, would you like to start?
Sure. Thank you. I mean, I have a question for every one of them, but so maybe I'd like to ask Yossr from Tunisia whether the fact that you've gotten engaged, do you think that you are able to make an impact in people around you understanding the importance of youth engagement? And I mean, like your municipal authorities, your government. Is anybody there changing policies to make this youth engagement much more of a national policy in Tunisia?
I have mic, thank you. Well, well, it's actually a very good question. In fact, the group that I have joined is only 6 years old, and this is their 7th year. So mostly the members of the group are all young. So the oldest one is in his 30s, which means like pretty young. But for the authorities, to be honest, at first it was like kind of hard introducing scouting to a community, but by time, and especially like this is basically the same answer as the question what the impact is. I always say the impact of all the work that we have done as youth in our community is the growth we had. Like the group started as 5 people. After COVID, now we are 275. Because people have seen us like on the field, have seen us doing work, have seen the impact we are doing and the change we are making in our community. At a certain point after COVID, when we started talking about vaccination centers, etc., they called us and they said like, now you have to come and do all the vaccinations like organization, etc., because we wouldn't do it without you. It was kind of chaotic at that time and people were scared what the vaccine is, and they thought that like the vaccine is limited for certain number of people. It wasn't, but we received a huge number of people in a very, very short time. So things got chaotic. And until this day, they always say if there weren't scouts organizing all of the process, it wouldn't be easy at all. So mostly the impact is that, first of all, people joining the movement and growing from 5 people to 275, obviously, but also the government counting on us in each and every like big event. So the first person comes to mind, oh, scouts, they're good at it. They're good at talking to people, at organizing things. So we are mostly like the first thing it comes to their mind.
Okay, thank you. Andy, your question.
Yeah, my question's for Edward. So Edward, clearly scouting's had a tremendous impact on your life. What do you see as the greatest barrier for other young people in your country to also join scouting and be a part of it?
The most barrier that is there is maybe for us to have a support to increase it to their nearest places. So the only barrier that we have for not other kids to join is about, for us as Scout, that is Malawi, to increase it to the nearest places where they can be able to access the scouting activities. For example, we talk like in refugee camp. There you see maybe there are few of us learning the activities, and the community is somehow wider. So we need to try as much as possible to bring it closer to make sure that they are able to access it to most of their areas where they are. This is the huge problem that we have. Even in the rural communities, as for us, we need to, as much as to take it closer. So having access closer for them to come and participate, this has been our barrier in Malawi, not to have them much. So if we can increase it, the barrier will be no more there. Thank you.
Okay, now over to the audience. Has anyone got a question that they would like to ask? We have a microphone at the back, gentleman in the middle. Please say your name and your question into the microphone so we can all hear it.
Yes, my name is Tom Baltudis, and this question is for Gibbs. I'm a very passionate advocate for clean water. And how can we leverage Scouts' connection with the environment and with clean water toward bettering everyone's lives and in making water a more central part of the Scout program and message to the world of the importance of clean water for everyone, for equality and value of life. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that wonderful question. I would say that what we have been doing currently with my Scouts is more close to a statement that says, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. I would say no one is so small to make a difference. If each and everyone here could get involved and we impact more Scouts to do what we are already doing, one time, one step at a time, I believe we can make the world have more clean and safe water.
Every step counts. Anybody else like to, at the back? Lady at the back.
Hi there. My name is Lynn Brooks from the United States, and one of the programs that I think that World Scouting offers that I think is incredible is Jamboree on the Air, Jamboree on the Internet, the third weekend of October every year. When the global pandemic occurred in 2020, I was blown away with the ability of World Scouting to hold a special Jamboree on the Internet from April 3rd through the 5th to educate Scouts around the world about the pandemic. My question to you all, I guess would be maybe a raise of hands, is did any of you all access Jody in April of 2020 to share information with your communities about the pandemic that we were facing?
Are any of you involved with Jyoti? The four of you?
I'm not even sure if I joined Scouting by that time.
Yoss is too new, the others not, unfortunately. I don't know, do you want to make a comment about Jyoti, Andy, maybe? Or
Yeah, happy to. Jamboree on the Air, Jamboree on the Internet continues to be the most popular Scouting program around the world. We range from 3 to 5 million engagements with young people at a fraction of the cost of what we do in-person events. And it really goes back to my original comment, you know, the pandemic hit, and while other youth-serving organizations completely shut down, you couldn't play sports, you couldn't go to clubs, Scouting adapted immediately, transformed the Scouting program into a digital platform. And while it was so unfortunate that the young people were stuck at home, we provided that platform for continued engagement, for the continued dialogue, the discussions on the sustainable development goals that they're so passionate about, and Scouting continued on through that. Also, I'm really proud to announce that since we're talking about the pandemic, that for the first time since the pandemic, we have now reached across the world the pre-pandemic membership numbers of Scouting. So Scouting is back and is now fully recovered membership-wise.
That's fantastic. Any other questions? Yes, Thomas.
Hi, my name is Thomas. I'm from Switzerland, and I do have a question for Lisa. You briefly mentioned that during your Gilwell training, you looked into the mental health topic of young leaders. Can you maybe give us 2 or 3 tips what we can do to improve young people's mental health and well-being so that they can continue to have a long-lasting impact in the world? Thank you.
Yes, so I'm not sure how Scouting is, like how the camps are prepared outside of Switzerland, but in Switzerland, as I said, we're really precise, and also our camps are like fully planned. So there's mostly not that much time left for the leaders to have a breathe, to have time for themselves or in a team. With this box, we tried to give some activities, some ideas how they can change this. Like one thing is a barometer for their how they feel. So they have like a little clip with their name, and then they can just move it around so everyone in the group sees like how the others are feeling, and you get a feeling for how the group is working. And if everyone is like really down, you know, maybe we need to change something. And like we did different of those activities for them. And we tested it last summer, or this year in the summer, in some camps, and we saw that there was an improvement. So they were feeling better, they were less stressed, and that was great.
Thank you, Lisa. I think there's a lot we can learn from the Swiss Scouts for other organizations as well. Any other burning questions? From Thijs, of course.
I think I'm Thijs Stoffer. I'm born in Netherlands, live in Switzerland. My question is to Edward, but not because the other stories were less heartwarming. I think congratulations on your stories. Edward, I had the privilege of knowing you a little bit because of another activity we're having. You talked about 500 children that you have in school. So I have one question. How long did it take you, and how much money did you need for it? And you know I was going to ask yours.
Okay, so I'll start how much money. So actually, we started with empowering the girls and women in the camp. This project, it enabled me, I had an access to Messengers of Peace, where they were looking for scouts who are doing activities in regard to gender diversity and inclusion. So from the office, they said, no, you can try this because you've started a project of empowering women in the camp. So maybe you can find something in your space here. So I designed a project where I talked about giving entrepreneurial skills to women and girls. So I was lucky that I won $1.5 US, which is 1,500 US. And then this one, it enabled me to train the women and ladies in the camp. And again, we were able to give them the scarves, the uniforms, and as well as the books where they could be able to run in the camps. And then this whole process of training and give them skills, it cost me $1,100 US. And I was left with $400 US. Then I said, what do I do with $400 US then? Then I said, let's ship into entrepreneurial skills. Then we had to go into another training for entrepreneurial skills. And then the training ran well. And then we had to give them even some small seed funding. So they're able to buy flour and whatever so that they're able to have a starter pack for now. So then we hosted the whole 1,500. We went to solar panel where I had to reach out to my friends and as well families. So there, the whole solar panels and the bulbs, the batteries, it cost me 1,195 Malawi kwacha, which equivalent to $200 US. And then this one was able for us to set the solar at school, which is enabling the kids to go and study as well. So I would say, plus the one that the World Foundation, for us to bring the ticket to life to Dzaleka refugee camp, approximately maybe $200 US, if I'm not mistaken. So if you can square it up, the whole cost that I've spent in Dzaleka refugee camp, it's approximately $400 US, which has really, really brought a huge impact in our camp, in the refugee camp.
So a little goes a long way, and I think it's another example, as Yossr said before, you're making the most out of the least.
Yes.
Sorry, did you want to say
So
something?
the whole period that it took us this, it was within the two years period. That's what we have done, the initiatives. So within 2 years, we have done this in Dzaleka refugee camp.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question, and Lars has already put his hand up, so he has get the microphone.
Thank you very much to all of you. My question is to you, Nina. And I'd like you to wear your big UNICEF hat. You're aware that there are more than 500 million people, adults in the world, who have gone through Scout training. Would you kindly share with us, with your UNICEF hat, what are the 3 most important social impacts of that?
Very good question, and definitely I think that there's several ways to answer the question. From a UNICEF perspective, you know, we are working a lot with governments, so as a UN organization. So where we see a shift is the fact that more and more governments are responding to citizens' demands, needs, etc. That's a new trend that wasn't there before. So I feel that the pressure from below, from the electorate, is really growing, and this is where there's a potential impact of scouting, because you're an organized movement. So it really is a way to influence the bigger picture at the national and local level. That's one clear thing. Then there is a great opportunity also is the fact that the Scouts is one of the what is informally called the Big Six youth organizations that are really at the core of empowering young people, making sure young people have a role in society, which is recognized and measured, because that's another thing we have to deal with. So there is that aspect. So those are influencing the systems within politics, influencing, connecting youth movements across the world. But if I had to boil it down to, if there's one thing that, of those 3, the most important one, I think that based on the youth development literature and based on scientific research, we know one thing, that there is one protective factor that is really critical when it comes to protecting young people from all sorts of challenges, like doing poorly in school, and having negative health outcome. That one protective factor is called connectedness. So the sense of feeling connection to your family, your peers, your school, your community is so important. And that sense of belonging. And I think that if you look at all of their stories, and all of the stories, certainly of the people we worked in the Ukrainian crisis, you can see that sense of belonging somewhere, sense of belonging to something larger than just myself. I'm belonging to my community, to my school, etc. And that's the biggest contribution at the individual level that I would say. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just checking if there's any other questions. Otherwise, I would do the wrap up now. I think we've been sitting here for long enough. Thank you to the panel speakers, firstly to Nina and to Andy, for sharing your many insights, your observations, the strategy, thoughts for the future. But I particularly want to thank the young speakers. I'm sure you agree that they were inspirational, emotional. They have courage to come out on stage, speak not in their native language, like me, share their stories. I'm completely humbled by what you have all achieved, and for your enthusiasm for Scouting, and for bringing it here to share with us today. So I think a big round of applause to everyone on the panel. And now we have to get off the stage, and Flor is going to come back on for the next piece.
Thank you to our amazing 7 speakers, but also thank you to the audience. I think you brought really good questions. Maybe you brought them ready, I imagine, because they were really, really interesting questions. I think now we've talked a lot about impact, but I think we're ready to move into action. Let me hand over first to Misha and then to Felipe, who will launch the World Scout Foundation Annual Appeal.
Your Majesty, Your Royal Highness, Your Highness, BP Fellows, Scouts, and distinguished guests. In Scouting, we all dream of a world where young people are inspired to act and to engage, to drive positive change for a more peaceful and sustainable world. A world filled with leaders who are inclusive, fair, and loyal. A world where young people are represented in the very decisions that shape and determine their own future. A world where there are more Scouts. This afternoon, you've seen just how your continued support is positively impacting so many young people around the world, like Gidds, Lisa, Yossr, and Edward. Thanks to you, we're on track to provide the necessary resources to the World Organization of the Scout Movement to drive growth and development to Scouting worldwide, and to enable even more young people and volunteers to experience the life-changing educational offering that Scouting has to offer. As a BP Fellow and a supporter of World Scouting, you play an important role in our joint success. You are at the heart of everything we do, providing your time, opening your networks, and contributing generously to the foundation to bring our vision to life. Thank you very much for your continued support.
Let me check. How many of you felt inspired whilst our speakers were speaking? Put your hands up. I was blown away. I was almost in tears in the back of the room. Now, how many of you believe we need to do everything we can so that these young people and the other 57 million out there can keep on doing what they're doing? Raise your hands, please. We all agree on that. Now, these amazing Scouts can only do what they do if they have the right resources. And this is only possible through you and many other organizations that support us. Projects like Ticket to Life and other projects are complex and they're long-term, and they require long-term planning. And that is why we are now trying to drive annual giving, because annual giving can provide us with reliable sources of income that give us long-term planning effectively. So today, we're going to launch officially our annual appeal 2023, which is to drive annual giving. We have a goal of $1 million to be raised by the end of this year. And every dollar counts. You can contribute by making an additional donation, or you can also just make a contribution to your open pledge. Every dollar counts. And you have to remember, 100% of your donations go to Scouting. So how can you support? I'm going to share with you now some real-life examples of how you can support and some people that have already been supporting. One of the ways you can support the annual appeal is by sponsoring a BP Fellow or a young BP Fellow. And we have in the room Lynn Brooks. She asked a question earlier. She has been doing an amazing job of sponsoring many BP Fellows. Thank you, Lynn. And you could be like Lynn. You could sponsor lots of BP Fellows so we can grow our family and find more people out there that believe in what we believe and can keep on donating. Another great way to support is friend-raising. Friend-raising is a specific term we are using in our annual appeal. Eva Marie from Sweden, she's also around here. She has also already found a new friend who will join as a BP Fellow. We are giving an incentive for anybody recruiting friends. We're going to credit your accounts with a soft credit to say thank you for your recruiting efforts. You can find me or any member of the team if you want to find out more about this, or go to the annual appeal landing page, which we'll share later. How do I recruit people? Well, how about hosting a small event where you can cultivate people and show people the amazing impact of Scouting? You can tell stories like the ones that were told here today, or you can tell your own stories, because most of you are Scouts and have amazing stories to tell. And we know that Beat Wenger, together with the Swiss chapter, they have held an event just a couple of nights ago in Zurich to tell our story to people who don't know so much about scouting. And we can recruit more people to this amazing network. There are so many ways for you to support scouting, but also to support our annual appeal and our goal for this year. We're going to talk more about annual giving and the annual appeal on our Sunday session on Sunday morning. We're going to spend a lot of time on that, so get ready. Our job is to find more people like you, more people like us who believe what we believe, more people that do what we do. What we do is support people like Edward, Yossr, Gidds, and Lisa. This is what we do. So they can keep on doing what they do, which is to leave this world a little better than they found it. They are already changing the lives of so many people around them by the work that they've been doing. And our job is to provide them with more resources so they can do more, and all the 57 million scouts around the world can keep on doing what they're doing. Thank you so much for all you do. I would like now to invite Mark, our Chief Executive Officer, to the stage to provide a few words. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, this is a difficult act to follow, I can tell you, standing there on the side. And you have seen a few examples of what Baden-Powell Fellows can do. And we have seen the speakers here on stage. And although I'm in the spotlight, I think it's you that need to be in that spotlight. You all here in this room. Thanks to each one of you, we can provide the resources to World Scouting. And I'm honored to be part of this amazing group of 2,500 Baden-Powell Fellows that have the continued commitment to support Scouting. And I'm in awe of your commitment, for which I like to applaud you, but I have two hands full, so let's see if it works. And as CEO of the World Scout Foundation, I of course count on you to make a contribution via our annual appeal. No matter how you do that, whether it is by fundraising, by sponsoring new Baden-Powell Fellows, by making a contribution to your pledge, or just to make another contribution on top of the one you already did. We warmly encourage you to keep contributing so more young people can develop as resilient, active citizens who are empowered to lead meaningful actions in their local communities worldwide. Thanks to your passion, we can continue to position World Scouting as one of the key solutions to the challenges facing our youth today. Together, we can raise even more to ensure that young scouts around the world have the resources to grow, to learn, and to create a better world. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for your continued support.